Good evening, Vinny Castro here, and welcome to the We Love Betting preview of the Cincinnati Masters, which is the final Masters event before the US Open, which starts at the end of the month. In last week's preview, we were a little unlucky as Del Potro suffered a back injury just as the draw was opening up for him. Meanwhile, Djokovic suffered a final set tie-break loss to Nadal in his semi-final. Moving on to this week, the top four seeds remain, meaning that Federer once again is the fifth seed, and we will get to see him having withdrawn in Montreal prior to last week's tournament. Starting with the first quarter, world number one Djokovic starts his campaign to become the first singles player in history to win all 9 ATP World Tour Masters 1000 titles. The Serb has lost in the final on 4 occasions will open his Cincinnati campaign against either Monaco or Meltzer, with potentially Simon in the third round. However, Djokovic shouldn't be troubled by any of these opponents. In the quarterfinals, Gasquet looms, but he has some tricky games beforehand against Isner and then Raonic in the third round. The Canadian just lost in the final in Montreal, so I wonder how much he has left in the tank. Likewise, Isner went deep in the 2 tournaments before Montreal, so he may not be motivated enough for a deep run on the eve of the US Open. Gasquet lost to Djokovic just last week in the quarterfinals 6-1, 6-2, so I fully expect a similar sort of scoreline and Djokovic to make it to the last 4 once again. In the second quarter, the third seed Ferrer has a favourable opener with Harrison up first, followed by a tricky one against big serving Raonic. The Spaniard lost in the first round last week as question marks remain over his ankle injury. Ferrer has never got past the quarter-finals here, so I'm happy to once again go against him. Del Potro has a nice start until his third round, where he's most likely facing Nishikori, but the Argentinian has a 4-0 record with the Japanese player, taking all 10 sets they have played. In this quarter-final, I expect, if Djokovic faces Ferrer, which normally I'd favour Del Potro, but as his back isn't 100%, I'm not sure I could back him in any sort of outright market here. Similarly, Raonic has had arm issues himself, and whilst the Argentinian should come through, with question marks remaining over all 3 players, we could see an upset in this quarter, with maybe Nishikori making a breakthrough, but given his head-to-head against Del Potro, that does seem quite unlikely. In the third quarter, we see 5-time and current Cincinnati champion Federer, as well as last week's Montreal winner Nadal. It's hard to write off a winner in 4 of the last 6 events here, but Federer has had back issues, whilst his form with his new racket is incredibly worrying after 2 early defeats in the clay courts. His draw is okay with Kohlschreiber or Fish to start with, but the American has had health issues these days, and the German is 0-7 with Federer. Haas in the last 16 is a danger, but he pulled out last week with illness. Still, Haas beat Federer last year in Halle, which is virtually Roger's backyard, so if we do get that match, it won't be easy for the world number 5. In the last 16, he should meet Nadal. The Spaniard starts off with a qualifier and then one of Dimitrov, Istomin or Almagro, of which the Spaniard is a combined 15-0 against the 3 of them. Nadal v Federer looks mouth-watering on paper, but Nadal owns Federer with a 22-10 record, and I would favour him to win this match and ultimately the quarter. In the final quarter, Murray returns after his early loss to Gulbis last week, and they should face each other once more in the second round. Murray has a knack of bouncing back after an early loss in the tournament before. Last year, he lost in the first round of Indian Wells only to reach the final of the preceding tournament in Miami. He lost his opener at Queen's last year before making the Wimbledon final, and finally he was defeated here in Cincinnati in his second match, only to then go on and claim his first major at the US Open a fortnight later. I expect Murray to beat Gulbis this time, and Burdick looks his most likely opponent in the last 8. The Czech player does have a 5-4 head-to-head record v Murray, but the Scot has won the last 3 on a hard court. Burdick has only reached the semis here once in 8 appearances, compared to Murray, who has won twice in 5 years, and making at least 3 semi-finals in the same period. After failing last week, I like Murray to bounce back and make it into the last 4 this time around. In the semi-finals, Djokovic looks set to face one of Del Potro, Ferrer or Raonic, as mentioned before. But once again, with all 3 carrying doubts over their fitness, I expect the Serb to beat whoever he has to face and make the final. Del Potro is the obvious danger matchup-wise, but with his back injury, plus winning in Washington the week before last, will he really fancy 3 tough weeks on the trot before a major while carrying a knock? For me, I don't think he will. Ferrer is down 11-0 to the Serb on an outdoor hard court in the head-to-heads, whilst Djokovic has never faced Raonic, but it's hard to see the Serb losing to Raonic, given he's going for the record-breaking 1000 Masters record, and I think he's going to win this court. Well, he's going to win this court in the semi-final and make the final easily. Looking at the other semi-final, it's been 10 years since someone who has won the Montreal Masters and the Cincinnati Masters in back-to-back weeks. That was Roddick back in 2003. Given Nadal's excellent work last week, it could have an effect on his knees. And with the US Open on the horizon, I'm not sure he really wants to go deep in back-to-back weeks after a long layoff. As a result, I like Murray to conquer him, and the stats are also in our favour with Murray here, as he has won 4 of their last 5 matchups in a hard court. Nadal had his week last week to get some form in his legs, while Murray's need is much greater this time around. So I fully expect him to face Djokovic in this year's final. Djokovic has been runner-up in 4 of the last 5 events here, and hasn't taken a set in any of those losing finals, which is a little bit worrying. Djokovic's record in finals this year is 3-1, whilst Murray's is 4-1. The head-to-head is 11-8 in Djokovic's favour, with the serve winning 5-2 on hard courts since 2007. Murray's a different player now compared to he was back then, and it must not forget that both of Murray's wins here at Cincinnati did come against finals against Djokovic, and of the 2, I fancy him as the value pick this tournament. So, in summary, my best bets for this tournament are a Murray-Djokovic final, which is 3-1 at Bet365, and Murray to win at a general price of 7-2. If there's any questions about the tournament, you can give me a tweet at Vinny Castro 27. If not, thanks for listening and best of luck with your bets. Cheers.